Arguably, one of the best parts of storytelling is developing imposter syndrome. It's not contagious, nobody knows about it, but it eats away at you, sort of like that tapeworm you got from gas station sushi last year. I should really get that checked. Anyway, you pour your heart and soul into something that you can be proud of, and we both know that we can't have any of that. So, you start worrying maybe your original idea isn't very special after all, and you'll never write anything great, just like your teachers, parents, writing group, and neighbor's dog always said. That's why today I want to show you why feeling like a fraud isn't only inevitable as a storyteller, but necessary if you want to tell a great story. To do this, we'll be looking at two of my favorite side characters, Zuko from Avatar The Last Airbender and Taigen from Blue Eye Samurai, considering their similarities and explaining 3 writing secrets as to how you, as a writer, can take a pre-existing character and use them as inspiration for your own story characters without that crushing sense of incompetence. I'm just kidding. You'll still have that feeling. But, at any rate, let's get this inadequacy extravaganza rolling with strategy number 1. Consider what makes your template character work and build from there. So look, we all have types. Blonde hair, blue eyes, tries to stab you here and there but not deep enough to get an assault charge. Likewise, characters have types. Archetypes. Basically a blueprint as to what they want and need in the story. Maybe a common background, and a general trajectory for their story arc. Try as you may, you're not going to easily escape telling a story without your characters falling into one of the many archetypes, whether it's the hero, the magician, the adventurer, or any of the other myriad of possibilities. It's like hopping onto old-school Microsoft Paint and saying you're going to pick a color no one has ever used before. It's just not going to happen. But what if I... No, shut up. Now, this isn't a flaw in storytelling, it's a feature of human nature. We like certain things because they're familiar to us, like a woman that keeps you on your toes even when you're on your back. And you can either actively seek this out or waste a lot of time and effort trying to avoid it, only to find, surprise, you inadvertently wrote one of the 12 basic character archetypes, and you had another mystery wound on your arm when you woke up this afternoon. When writing a character like Taigen and making the assumption that he is loosely based on Zuko, the question we want to ask ourselves isn't, how do I shove Zuko into the story of Blue Eye Samurai? Instead, we want to ask ourselves, what was it about Zuko's character that made him work in Avatar The Last Airbender? There are a lot of things we liked about Zuko as a villain during the first 1.5 episodes of Avatar. He was fearless, focused, and a badass. Even though we understood he was the bad guy, there wasn't a single kid and probably a few adults watching that show that wouldn't have given their favorite set of footy pajamas to be Zuko. Just the spectacle of Zuko lured us in before we even had a chance to understand him on a deeper level. This is like that magician that came to your class in the first grade. You didn't know anything about his personal life, his personality, or that he was selling drugs to middle schoolers out of his magical suitcase. You just thought he was cool, and you invested in him, first emotionally, and then financially. Now let's just strip that idea down and transfer it over to Taigen. When we first meet him, he's basically the 14-year-old drama club dork in a leather jacket smoking cigarettes that he bought from a magician living out of his car, a mixture of hopeless romantic and arrogant badassery. We learn that he is formidable and that he has a link to Mizu's past, having been her main bully back in Japanese kindergarten, which I always assumed was just a sweatshop, but it seems to have been more of a Hunger Games vibe. Like Zuko, we are drawn into Taigen's character, not because of any obvious redeeming qualities, but because he is interesting. As a samurai, a potential heir to the local lord, and as a link to Mizu's past. Once this initial hook is set, and we as audience members want to know more about this apparent villain, the story opens up, and we have an opportunity to give our hero a driving force, which is our second point. Use the same character motivations to push your copycat character forward. Once we have an audience interested in a redeemable villain, whether it's because they're a samurai or a master of fire kung fu, we can start to give them depth. For Zuko, this occurs when we learn he's not just some bounty hunter or OCD teenager with an awesome facial scar. No, he's a dishonored prince who is trying to reclaim his status, his relationship with Marilyn Manson, and the approval of his dad, which is something we all resonated with as kids watching anime while our fathers kept trying to sign us up for football games. Similarly, after losing his fight with Mizu, we watched Taigen lose everything he held dear. His position of honor at the dojo, his opportunity to marry Akemi, his hair. Whether or not we like Taigen at this part of the story or not, we are interested in his character and want to see what he does to reclaim his honor, especially when, like with Aang in the last Avatar, Mizu is the one person standing in his way. In both cases, our characters are on a redemptive arc, one which starts in opposition to our main protagonist, then matures into mutual respect for the hero, and then finally ends where our character realizes they are meant to assist our hero and let go of their selfish ambition for greatness. The key is to mirror the original character's journey, not copy it completely. We're going for flattery here, not Jeepers Creepers or Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Yes, both heroes have fallen from grace. Yes, both heroes need to reclaim their honor. Yes, both heroes need to figure out a new hairstyle. But how they fall from grace, the type of honor lost, and the change in hair differ. It's like playing the same song but a half step down. The story sounds familiar, but it's different enough that we don't immediately recognize it and get burned alive by diehard fans of the other show.
But Andrews, what if my main story arc doesn't allow me to just copy and paste the character from another story? Isn't there a middle road to creating a character from scratch or just uprooting a character arc from another story?
Happy you asked, my ornery friend, because that's our third strategy. If you don't want to steal a character's entire arc, you can still use them as an initial baseboard for your own character. Simply put, it's not theft, it's just taking inspiration. Think of this like strippers at the lunch buffet. They don't have all the qualities you want from a life partner, but they have a lot of the features that matter. And of course, I mean supporting themselves financially. In storytelling, maybe you see a character and they have a sick top knot, maybe a snarky personality, or just a lot of teenage angst that doesn't come off as melodramatic. You want to write a character like this, but you don't want to write this exact same character. Well, we create a character filter. What does that mean? Going back to our stripper analogy, we take our French housemaid stripper of choice, let's call her Ammonia D, and consider everything we like about her. We've got her personality, dreams, and work ethic, all characteristics we love about Ammonia, and we then look for these same features in the women we pretend to date outside of the nightclub. The goal isn't to get a perfect match, but rather to find a girl like Ammonia D, with the key difference being that she works an OnlyFans page instead of a strip club stage, because it proves she's got brains and all that other stupid stuff I mentioned earlier, which is another quality we care about. So, let's put Zuko in Ammonia's high-heeled sparkly shoes and come up with a filter. Zuko is competent, showing his fighting ability against his crew, Aang, and Commander Zhao. He is persistent, having tracked down the Avatar after 2-ish years of searching. He is honorable, forgoing everything that he has wanted for the past several years in order to keep his crew safe during a storm at sea. We see all of this during the first 2 episodes of the show, so it makes up maybe 5% of Zuko's screen time, while establishing 90% of his character. Now what we do is take this 5 minutes of screen time and shovel it on over to our new story character to establish a base for Taigen. Is Taigen some useless wannabe opponent? No. He's the best samurai at the dojo and actually gives Mizu a run for her money until she takes off her handicap gauntlets. Does he give up at every obstacle? No. He hunts Mizu down and promises to help her on her mission so that he can fight her afterwards. The man is even honorable, refusing an opportunity to kill Mizu when she is vulnerable and also keeping her whereabouts secret because he respects her as a swordsman. Taigen has all of Zuko's characteristics, but they are exemplified in other scenarios. He is the same tool being used to perform a different task, and it works out perfectly. When taking this strategy in your own writing, stop to ask yourself, what would my base character do? I don't think this slogan has a bracelet yet, but that's not important. What is important is keeping your base character at the forefront of your mind like bumper bars at a bowling alley, ensuring that you keep your character consistent up until the point where you feel like you know who they are. This is usually the point where writers freak out because they have to go and do revisions to make their story better. But you'll notice upon a second reading, as you sand out the imperfections of your copycat characters, that they start to take on a unique life of their own. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hit the dislike button if you want me to send Ammonia D to your house and break some of your stuff, or leave a comment with any questions you have on writing. Now, go write the best story possible, and tune in next week for another writing lesson. Boo-ba-doo, do-do-do-do-do, do-do-do. The end.